The alien coalition had already claimed dozens of worlds across the galaxy, each one falling to their advanced technologies and superior firepower. The Zetharians, with their razor-sharp intellects, led the charge. The Drakes, a race of towering warriors, brought unmatched physical strength to the battlefield, while the Vigor, a race of telepathic manipulators, controlled the flow of information, making their strategies nearly impossible to counter. Together, they were unstoppable until they set their sights on Earth. For months, their scouts had been monitoring human civilization, and the reports that came back were puzzling. Earth was a planet of primates, with little technological advancement compared to other species they had conquered. But there was something else in those reports that intrigued them. Stories of human resilience, their never-ending drive to survive. In every conflict, no matter how small, humans had an uncanny ability to bounce back. Yet the aliens dismissed this as mere myth. After all, Earth's military forces were outdated, their weapons primitive, and their world was divided. How could they possibly pose a threat? The Zetharians sent out the orders. The invasion would begin at dawn. Earth's first line of defense, a coalition of international forces, scrambled to prepare for the worst. But no one truly expected an alien assault. When the first fleet appeared in Earth's atmosphere, humanity was caught off guard. The ships were enormous, each one dwarfing even the largest aircraft carriers in human possession. The Zetharians' sleek, silver vessels cut through the sky like a storm, while the Drakes dropped down onto cities, towering above every human they encountered. The Vigor, ever present in the shadows, manipulated communications, sowing confusion among the Earthlings as they bombarded military channels with false orders. The response was chaos. Cities fell within hours. Major capitals, from New York to London to Beijing, found themselves under siege by forces they couldn't comprehend. Human military bases were obliterated, and Earth's government struggled to organize a counterattack. There was no unified strategy, no global force that could stand against the aliens. Panic set in as communications between nations broke down. The alien forces made quick work of what little defense humanity had, setting up camps and bases across the globe. The alien commanders watched from their ships, observing with a sense of detached superiority. The Zetharians, who had studied Earth for months, sent a smug message across the galaxy. Another primitive world falls. Another easy conquest for the Great Coalition. But beneath their arrogance, something began to stir. Those cities burned, and their advanced technology seemed unstoppable. The aliens noticed something strange. Amid the chaos, pockets of resistance emerged. Human soldiers, though outgunned and outmatched, continued to fight back. They fought with an intensity that was almost unpredictable. A lone fighter would ambush an alien patrol. A small squad would hold off an entire battalion long enough for civilians to escape. Every act of resistance was messy, frantic, but it was clear. It wasn't just survival. It was a defiance the aliens couldn't quite grasp. The aliens laughed off these small victories. They'll break soon enough, they said to one another. They'd always do. But what they failed to understand was that Earth's warriors were not like the others they had conquered. These warriors were driven not just by the desire to live, but by a deep-seated need to protect their own. Humanity's spirit was not easily broken, and the alien coalition would soon learn just how dangerous that spirit could be. As the days stretched into weeks, the alien coalition's belief in their inevitable victory remained unshaken. Earth's governments fell one by one, unable to mount any meaningful defense against the technologically superior invaders. The initial alien onslaught was devastating. Major cities across the globe were reduced to rubble under bombardments from alien warships, their weapons tearing through Earth's defenses with ease. The humans' response seemed pitiful in comparison. Outdated jets scrambled to intercept enemy ships, but they were no match for the aliens' advanced weaponry. From the vantage point of their enormous motherships, the alien commanders observed Earth's downfall with detached satisfaction. The Zetharians, with their vast intellects, had predicted that humanity would collapse under the weight of such an overwhelming force. The drakes, hungrily awaiting the conquest, rumbled with excitement as they trampled human forces beneath their massive feet, and the Vigor, ever watchful from the shadows, manipulated the flow of communication and knowledge, ensuring that human leaders were scattered and disorganized. Humanity had no chance, or so the aliens thought. The warning signals, however, were already starting to flicker in the background. It began with small, seemingly inconsequential pockets of resistance, humans fighting in the shadows, sabotaging alien technology. These insurgents had no real chance of winning. They were civilians armed with little more than makeshift weapons, but they fought with a tenacity that should have been alarming. The first group to successfully down an alien drone sparked something. A small victory, yes, but enough to ignite a fire of defiance. At first, the alien commanders dismissed these skirmishes as mere inconveniences. They're only trying to hold on to their illusions of resistance, the Zetharians said with confidence. Their weapons are primitive. Their soldiers are disorganized. They will fall in time. But there was something about these humans, something that wasn't quite right. The aliens found themselves baffled. Every time they sent a force to crush a rebel group, more humans seemed to appear from nowhere. Civilians turned into fighters overnight. Young men and women, once ordinary farmers and teachers, were suddenly soldiers with a hunger for revenge. The aliens couldn't understand it. The drakes, who had relished the idea of wiping out a lesser species, began to feel the weight of their own hubris. The human resistance, though fragmented, was unrelenting. Each successful attack on the alien invaders seemed to come out of nowhere, exploiting weaknesses the aliens didn't know existed. Their technology, which had been invincible in every other conquered world, began to fail in strange ways. Alien shields flickered and dropped unexpectedly. Communications between alien units were scrambled. Weapons malfunctioned just when they were needed most. To the aliens, this was impossible. They had the finest military in the galaxy, and yet they were being outwitted by these primitive creatures. But they ignored the signs, refusing to believe that the humans could be anything more than a nuisance. The alien coalition doubled down on their efforts, sending more forces to Earth, convinced that humanity's resistance was simply the last gasps of a dying species. What the aliens didn't realize was that they were witnessing the first flicker of something they had never encountered before, a species that would not give up. Humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology, nor their military might. It was their unwavering will to fight for survival. The aliens believed they had broken humanity's spirit, but in their overconfidence, they had only begun to awaken it. The initial stages of the invasion had been a catastrophic success for the aliens, but the tides were starting to turn in ways they hadn't anticipated. The humans, pushed to the brink of annihilation, were starting to fight back with a determination and ingenuity that left the invaders scratching their heads. At first, the alien commanders had believed that humanity's resistance was just the final burst of energy from a species on the verge of extinction. But as weeks turned into months, they began to realize something unsettling. The humans weren't giving up. It started with small, localized victories. Rebel groups, once scattered and hopeless, began to coordinate. They targeted weak points in the alien supply lines, sabotaging weapons and machinery. One particularly daring group of humans had managed to hack into an alien warship's communication system, sending a series of false orders to the enemy fleet. The confusion caused by the miscommunication bought the humans precious time to regroup and reorganize. It was a blow to the alien forces, but they dismissed it as a fluke. However, what followed wasn't a fluke. It was the start of a growing movement. Across the globe, human fighters had started modifying alien technology, adapting it for their own purposes. Scavenged weapons, stolen alien drones, and makeshift bombs became powerful tools in the hands of Earth's defenders. The aliens had thought they were dealing with a primitive species, but the humans' creativity was unmatched. The most significant breakthrough came when a group of human engineers, working from underground bunkers, managed to reverse engineer an alien power core. Using this technology, they created a new type of weapon, one capable of disabling the alien warship shields. It was a game changer. A group of human soldiers armed with these weapons launched a bold raid on an alien-controlled city. Within hours, they had destroyed half of the alien fleet stationed there, leaving the invaders reeling. The alien commanders were furious. The Zitharians, once confident in their intellect and strategy, now found themselves facing an enemy they could not predict. The Drakes, who had enjoyed slaughtering humans in the early stages of the war, now found themselves facing a growing resistance that was more organized and relentless than they had imagined. And the Vigor, who prided themselves on their mind control tactics, were being outsmarted by humans who refused to break under pressure. For the first time, the aliens were questioning their strategy. What they had initially believed was a quick and effortless conquest was turning into a costly war. Reports began to flood in. Human fighters were attacking their supply ships, ambushing their patrols, and dismantling their advanced weaponry with frightening precision. The alien forces were losing ground. In the midst of this chaos, the alien leadership began to falter. Their confidence, once unshakable, had cracked. The Zitharians, who had underestimated the power of human determination, now began to recognize the true threat humanity posed. They had not expected Earth's warriors to be so adaptable, so quick to learn, and so unwilling to give in. The realization hit them like a wave. Earth's warriors were not just surviving. They were evolving. And the aliens had made one fatal mistake. They had underestimated humanity's greatest strength. Humanity's resolve was like nothing they had ever encountered. The aliens had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, and now they were paying the price. Their fleets, once considered invincible, were being picked apart by guerrilla fighters who had learned to turn the tide of battle. Alien soldiers, though formidable, were becoming increasingly vulnerable to the human ingenuity that had caught them off guard. The relentless human resistance was proving to be more than a nuisance. It was a full-scale problem. The alien leadership convened, tension rising as the extent of their failure became evident. The Zitharians, whose advanced intellect had steered their empire through countless conquests, now found themselves stumped. They had studied the human race thoroughly, convinced that Earth's primitive societies would crumble under the weight of their technology. But instead, humans were making a fight of it, adapting their tactics and countering their technology with a speed that was astonishing. "We must escalate the conflict," declared Zithar, the lead strategist of the coalition, his voice laced with frustration. "These creatures are not mere vermin to be crushed easily. We underestimated their resilience, but we can still break them." The Drakes, towering and brutal, growled in agreement, their bloodlust rising with every setback. "We will flatten their cities," one of their leaders, Chlor, rumbled. "We will send them a message they will never forget." But the Vigor, ever the tacticians, had grown more cautious. They had seen the damage that humans could inflict with limited resources and were beginning to realize that simply overpowering them with brute force wouldn't be enough. They had made their mark in psychological warfare before, but now the humans were proving remarkably resistant to their telepathic manipulations. "I think it's time we try a different approach," said Vigor, the Vigor emissary. "We have methods of control, yes. Perhaps we need to break them mentally, as well as physically. We must target their leaders, sow discord among their ranks." The alien coalition agreed to escalate their assault, but not without shifting tactics. They would now bring out their most deadly assets. The Drakes were sent to invade Earth's military strongholds, demolishing cities with sheer power. The Zitharians released waves of elite soldiers, armed with devastating energy weapons that could disintegrate entire battalions. And the Vigor began amplifying their telepathic influence, reaching out to Earth's leaders in an attempt to break their unity. But as the alien forces prepared to launch this new offensive, the humans were already moving ahead with their own countermeasures. In an underground facility, human engineers had been working in secret reverse engineering alien technology. One of their key discoveries was an alien device capable of disrupting energy shields, an asset the humans had used to inflict considerable damage in their earlier strikes. With this technology, they had devised a new plan. If the aliens were going to increase their attack, they would meet it with a ferocity that matched their own. Across the globe, scattered pockets of resistance were coming together, each faction bolstered by the knowledge of their successes. What had once been a fractured, desperate fight for survival was now beginning to look like something else, a unified global uprising. Humanity had adapted, and now they were taking the fight to the invaders. In response, the aliens found themselves in unfamiliar territory. They had always been the ones in control, the ones with the superior technology. But now, for the first time, they realized they were facing an enemy unlike any other, a species that could not only survive their onslaught, but was actively turning their weapons against them. The question on every alien's mind was simple. Could they still win this war? The air above New York was thick with smoke, and the city that had once been a beacon of civilization now stood on the precipice of destruction. Alien warships hovered ominously overhead, their massive forms casting long shadows over the crumbling skyline. Ground forces, led by the towering drakes, surged through the streets, their monstrous feet crushing buildings beneath them as they swept through the remnants of what had been a human stronghold. It seemed like the final, inevitable blow. The aliens had long believed that if they could break the heart of Earth's resistance, New York City, they would crush humanity's spirit entirely. But they had underestimated the one thing they hadn't factored in: the unity of the human spirit. As the aliens descended upon the city, humanity's resistance rose in unison. Fighters who had previously scattered in the face of overwhelming force were now rallying under a single banner, determined to defend their home no matter the cost. Civilians turned soldiers, young and old alike, armed with stolen alien weaponry, improvised explosives, and sheer determination. The humans fought with a ferocity that the aliens couldn't have predicted. They fought for their families, their cities, their way of life. But more than that, they fought for something the invaders could never understand: their unbreakable will to survive. The battle raged throughout the city, its streets echoing with the sounds of explosions, gunfire, and the unmistakable roar of alien war machines. Yet, in the midst of the chaos, something unexpected happened. The tide began to shift. A team of human engineers, working from the ruins of an old subway station, had completed their most ambitious project yet: a device capable of disabling the shields of alien warships. Armed with this new weapon, a small group of elite soldiers infiltrated an alien stronghold near the center of the city. They sabotaged the shield generators and used the weapon to bring down one of the alien battleships. The sudden explosion of the craft sent shockwaves through the enemy ranks, and the soldiers were able to infiltrate and destroy a critical supply depot that had been fueling the alien forces. The alien fleet began to falter, unable to respond to the sudden loss of support. Human soldiers took advantage of the opening, launching a devastating assault on the remaining alien warships. Despite their advanced technology, the aliens were unprepared for such a coordinated, relentless counterattack. The ground trembled as explosions rocked the city, and the once proud alien forces found themselves on the defensive. The Zetharians, observing from their command ships, were stunned. What had been a one-sided war had turned into a struggle for survival. The humans, armed with little more than their resourcefulness, had managed to inflict damage that the aliens hadn't thought possible. They were no longer fighting an easy conquest. They were fighting for their very existence. The Drakes, once so confident in their strength, were now being picked off by well-coordinated human ambushes. The Vigor's attempts to manipulate human minds fell flat, as Earth's resistance had become more unified than ever before. Leaders from all over the world, military commanders, scientists, politicians, even ordinary civilians, had come together, each offering whatever they could to push back the alien invasion. Earth's warriors were not just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to take back their world. In the heart of the battle, as the humans pushed the alien forces back, a powerful realization struck both sides. The war was no longer about technology or strength. It was about willpower, and humanity's was unshakable. As the last of the alien warships retreated from New York skies, the city, battered and broken, stood as a symbol of what humanity had accomplished. The resistance had turned the tide, and the aliens, for the first time, found themselves on the losing side of a battle they had thought they would win without effort. The war had only just begun, but humanity had proven one undeniable truth: they would never give up. And the alien coalition would soon learn that their greatest mistake was underestimating the heart of Earth's warriors. The victory in New York had ignited a fire that spread across the globe. What had been a disjointed and fractured resistance was now a unified force. The aliens, once convinced of their superiority, had been dealt a blow that no one had anticipated, not even the humans themselves. They had assumed Earth's warriors would collapse under the weight of their invasion. But instead, the battle-hardened soldiers, engineers, and civilians alike had become a formidable, relentless force. Across the world, human forces coordinated their efforts. Rebel groups that had once operated independently now worked together, sharing technology and resources. The United Nations, once a divided body, had been revitalized by a common cause. Governments, once shaken by the aliens' initial onslaught, now stood firm in their determination to reclaim Earth. Earth's warriors had become a global army, and they had learned how to fight the alien invaders on their terms. The aliens, for all their technological superiority, had underestimated one key factor: the adaptability of humanity. They had expected a world of scattered, isolated individuals, but they had instead found themselves up against a united planet that refused to bow. In the ruins of what was once Moscow, human engineers had managed to reverse engineer a more advanced version of the alien shield disruptor. This new weapon was capable of taking down the massive alien motherships in one strike, and it became Earth's most coveted tool in the war effort. As the human forces grew stronger, more alien vessels fell from the sky, and the invaders' once imposing fleet began to dwindle. The aliens' confidence, already shattered by the losses in New York, began to erode further as their forces on Earth dwindled. The Drakes, once the pride of the invasion force, were no longer as feared. The coordinated human ambushes were taking their toll, and many of their best warriors had fallen in battle. For the first time since the invasion began, the Drakes hesitated. They were no longer certain they could defeat the humans, not without suffering even greater losses. In the alien command ship orbiting Earth, the Zitharian High Council convened. The mood was grim. Their fleet was losing ships faster than they could replace them, and the humans had learned how to exploit every weakness in their once impenetrable defense systems. Zithar, once a confident strategist, now stared at the holographic map of Earth, his mind racing for a solution. "It's clear," Zithar spoke slowly, his voice laced with uncertainty. "We are losing this war. The humans are no longer the weaklings we thought they were. They've become something else, something we cannot easily defeat." The Vigor, who had been quietly observing, exchanged looks. They had been the first to recognize the dangerous potential of Earth's resistance, and now even they could no longer deny it. The humans weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting to reclaim their world, and they would do whatever it took. "We underestimated them," the Vigor emissary, Vikor, finally said. "We thought they were weak, but they have something we cannot understand, something that we have no control over." The Drakes, ever brash, growled in frustration. "Then we fight harder. We fight until there is nothing left of them to fight for." But Zithar's mind was already turning. "We need more than strength. We need a new strategy, one that will bring the humans to their knees. But how?" As the alien leadership debated, a new wave of human resistance fighters launched an attack on a major alien stronghold in the Pacific. The final push had begun, and Earth's warriors were determined to show the invaders that humanity's will was stronger than any weapon the aliens could wield. The endgame had arrived, and the fate of Earth would soon be decided in a final battle the aliens would never forget. The world was on the brink. The final battle had arrived, and both humanity and the alien coalition knew it would decide the fate of Earth. The alien forces, battered and bruised by the relentless human resistance, had gathered their remaining strength for one last push. The humans, now united under a single cause, were prepared to take the fight directly to the heart of the alien invasion. Their command ship, the massive fortress that loomed in Earth's orbit. For weeks, the humans had been preparing for this moment. They had reverse-engineered enough alien technology to launch an all-out assault on the invaders. The combined forces of Earth's military, the resistance, and every civilian who could fight were now gathering at the front line. It was no longer a fragmented struggle for survival. It had evolved into a war for Earth's very existence. The plan was simple, though perilous. The human forces would launch a series of attacks on alien strongholds, distracting and weakening the remaining alien fleet long enough for a small elite team of human commandos to infiltrate the alien mothership and destroy its core. If successful, it would cripple the entire alien invasion and end the war. But the risks were enormous. The mothership was heavily fortified, and its defenses were unlike anything the humans had faced before. Across the globe, human forces mobilized. Fighter jets scrambled, and ground forces took their positions, knowing that this would be the final confrontation. Cities that had once been reduced to rubble now served as bases of operation, and every last soldier, engineer, and scientist had a role to play in this last stand. The alien command ship hung in the sky like a dark omen, its sleek surface reflecting the dying light of the setting sun. From the massive ship's command deck, Zithar, the alien strategist, watched as the final assault began. The humans were coming. There was no denying it now. Despite their initial arrogance, the Zitharians had come to understand that humanity was not to be underestimated. Earth's warriors had proven resilient beyond all expectations, and now they had learned to fight with a unity and ferocity that could not be quelled. "I warned you," Vikor, the Vigor emissary, said, her voice low but firm. "We underestimated them. Now they have become our greatest threat." Zithar's fingers twitched as he studied the human forces assembling beneath them. No more mistakes. This ends now. But as the aliens prepared to defend their ship, the humans launched their first wave. Fighter jets soared into the sky, firing on the alien defense grid as ground forces charged forward, engaging in fierce battles with the remaining Drakes and Zitharians stationed around the globe. The air was thick with the sound of gunfire, explosions, and the roar of alien ships retaliating against the assault. In the chaos, the elite human strike team, a squad of soldiers and engineers who had trained for months in secrecy, boarded a specially designed ship that would take them into the heart of the alien mothership. Their mission was clear: destroy the ship's core, take down its shield generators, and cripple the alien forces. As they rocketed through space, the weight of the mission bore down on them. This wasn't just another battle, it was the final chance to turn the tide of the war. As they approached the mothership's exterior, the human team silently braced themselves. The moment of truth had arrived. They had one shot, and if they failed, the consequences would be catastrophic for Earth. Back on Earth, the battle raged on. Alien forces, still confident in their technological superiority, fought back with everything they had. But the humans, against all odds, held their ground. It was clear now, this was not just a battle for survival. It was a battle for the soul of Earth. The battle in space was fierce, with both sides unleashing their remaining power in one last desperate clash. The alien mothership loomed large, an impregnable fortress in the sky, but the human strike team was closing in, their ship dodging fire as it approached the massive vessel. On the ground, the world's last remaining resistance forces fought tooth and nail, pushing back against alien invaders as humanity's survival hung in the balance. Inside the human strike ship, the team was ready. Each member knew what was at stake. Captain Sarah Connor, the leader of the strike team, glanced at her crew. Engineers, soldiers, and scientists, each of them determined, eyes steely with resolve. The plan was simple: infiltrate the mothership, disable its defenses, and destroy the core. Failure was not an option. They were Earth's last hope. "We're almost there." Sarah's voice crackled over the comms. "Get ready. This is it." The ship rocketed toward the alien mothership's hull, avoiding defensive fire with impressive maneuvering. As the ship's docking clamps engaged, the team immediately sprang into action. They suited up and prepared to breach the vessel's core. The metallic door hissed open, and they stepped onto the alien ship's foreign terrain, cold, sterile, and ominous. The aliens had designed their mothership to be a maze of corridors, each one fortified with advanced defense systems. But the humans had learned their tactics well, and with each step, they used everything they had gained from the alien technology to navigate through the labyrinth. Their comms crackled, and Sarah could hear the intensity in her team's voices as they fought their way deeper into the ship. "They're everywhere," shouted Sergeant Clark, his voice grating with the sound of combat. "We need to push forward."